It's here, the NFL's Final Four, and we've got the biggest weekend coming up tomorrow on Sunday, the NFC and the AFC Championship. Who is going to be in the Super Bowl? We're going to be finding out tomorrow. And taking a look at my wildcard weekend record, I was 5-1 in picks, and last week divisional round 3-1. And we're going to start off with the earlier game on Sunday, 2 o'clock on CBS. It's the AFC Championship game, Central Time, 2 o'clock in Kansas City, in Arrowhead. It's the 14-5 Kansas City Chiefs at home for the 4th consecutive AFC Championship game in Arrowhead Stadium. It's a rematch from Week 16 in Cincinnati, where the Bengals won that game 34-31 in a huge upset over the Chiefs. But let's get into the two quarterbacks who are really going to decide this matchup. It's going to be Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. Taking a look at Patrick Mahomes, you can see his numbers. He's 8-2 in the playoffs, which means he is flat out a playoff performer. Has thrown for almost 800 yards this postseason with 9 touchdowns and only 1 unlucky interception. And the only 2 losses he suffered in the playoffs have been in the 2018 AFC Championship game, where he got extremely unlucky versus Tom Brady, who just retired, by the way, today, and in the Super Bowl 55 against Tom Brady, again, with offensive line injuries. But he's been amazing this postseason, and I'd expect that to continue. Patrick Mahomes definitely steps it up big time in the playoffs. I mean, he uses his legs a lot more as well. And then taking a look at Joe Burrow, I mean, he has similar numbers throughout the regular season, but I think Joe's definitely one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL now. He won his first 2 playoff games, and the problem with the Bengals is they've only scored 3 touchdowns in all of their playoff games as a whole. So their offense honestly might be in a little bit of a slump. And that Chiefs defense, they've been torched on deep passes in the playoffs, so Joe Burrow definitely has to take advantage of that. Might have to use his playmakers like Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, because, similar to what Gabriel Davis did, like the Bills, they may have to find somebody like that. And I think Joe is definitely in a position to where he can light it up just like Patrick Mahomes will. And then for the Bengals, it's going to be Joe Mixon who's going to play a big role in this game, because Joe's going to have to run that ball well. And the Bengals need long touchdown drives to keep Patrick Mahomes on the bench. And in order to do that, you need Joe Mixon to really do his thing on the ground. And he's had 14 carries for 54 yards last week and 1 touchdown against the Titans. He scored the only touchdown for the Bengals, around 4 yards a carry. And he's gotten 102 total yards this playoffs on 31 carries. And the Bengals line, the offensive line, we know, hasn't been really strong. So I think that Chris Jones, Nick Bolton, those 2 guys have been great in run defense. I think they're going to be huge, and they're going to stop Joe Mixon. And Jamar Chase, bottom right corner, he's going to have to come up big. We saw what he did in these 2 past playoff games. Each have 100 yards, has a touchdown. He's had some really big plays. If Jamar cannot have that 200-yard game that the Bengals might need out of one of their 3 receivers, it's going to have to be Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins. But they need somebody to put up 200 yards receiving to have a chance, like Gabriel Davis did. And then Trey Hendrickson, top right corner, he's going to have to play a big role, because he's that guy who gets pressure. He's going to have to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes somehow, because the Bengals, they don't have Larry Ogunjobi anymore, and they have to get pressure on him, obviously. But it's just impossible to really stop Mahomes, even when he gets outside the pocket. I mean, it gives you a better chance, but it just not. I just really don't know how to stop Mahomes right now. He's just at God mode at this point. But pressure from the inside has to get there too, to try and stop him somehow. And then Tyrann Mathieu, I think he's going to be such a huge key in this game. He needs to be there in the secondary. I think the defense also needs to have a better game plan compared to their last game against the Bengals, where Jamar Chase had 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I trust their defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, to come to the party and really do that, because this is the final blockade for the Chiefs, reaching their 3rd straight Super Bowl. And this secondary cannot allow the deep plays. They've allowed like over 10-15 deep plays in the playoffs itself, so it's really bad. And then Chris Jones and company, we already talked about that. They're going to have to shut down that run game. They're going to have to get pressure like they did last week against Josh Allen. And I think I think they're going to have an easier time because it's a weaker offensive line that allowed literally 9 sacks to the Tennessee Titans. I mean, so look out, because in Loud Arrowhead Stadium, they're going to be getting there at Frank Clark and then Melvin Ingram, who's been huge. And if Tyrann Mathieu is not there, I think this defense is going to get absolutely roasted. But I think the Chiefs' offense is going to carry this team, and I have the Chiefs winning this game 37-27. Obviously, Tyrann Mathieu to me is the big thing. As of right now, he's still not out of concussion protocol, although he was a full participant in practice. If he plays big advantage to the Chiefs, that secondary might be able to stop those big plays, because I think the Chiefs really learned their lesson when they lost to the Bengals 34-31. So if Tyrann Mathieu does not play, it's probably going to be a shootout, so I have it somewhere in between. But I'm not, honestly still not sure if the Bengals will be able to win at all, because Mahomes just absolutely roasted the number 1 defense in the NFL last week for 42 points. Now imagine what he's going to do against a team like the Bengals, which their defense is not that good. So either way, I think the Chiefs win in a high-scoring affair. Bengals very talented offensively, but they're just not going to be able to keep up. Now the NFC Championship game. It's the Los Angeles Rams at home for the NFC Championship game, taking on their arch rival out of the NFC West. It is the San Francisco 49ers, and Matthew Stafford, taking a look at his numbers, he's been lights out in these playoffs, and he deserves respect. Almost 600 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, has gotten the first 2 playoff wins of his NFL career, and he's made all the big throws that he's really needed to make so far in the run for the Rams this season. Jimmy G hasn't really had to do much. You can take a look at those numbers: 300 yards, 0 TDs, only 2 picks, but you know, that playoff record. Look at the playoff record. 4-1, man. This guy is a winner, flat out. And, you know, Garoppolo doesn't really have to do much. He hasn't had to do much. I don't think he needs to do much if they're going to successfully win this game. Although, if they need Garoppolo on a game-winning draft, he's going to have to get it done. But they just keep winning with Jimmy Garoppolo as quarterback. I mean, this guy, I feel it's more than what we're seeing on the field with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think it's something off the field. I think it's that leadership in the locker room. I think it's really him bonding with his teammates, really being that great leader. And I think that has a lot to do with why the 49ers are really successful alongside him. And you know, Jimmy Garoppolo, he does need respect. He hasn't done much statistically, hasn't really shown that much on the field, but when he needs to deliver, he generally comes through, and this team just wins. So he doesn't really need to do much, but they're gonna have to rely on that running game. He can't turn that ball over, absolutely not. And if Stafford has time, this is key. If Stafford has time, he will smoke that 49ers secondary. They don't stand a chance, because that Rams receiving core is on fire. But I think DeMeco Ryans may have something to say about that. The 49ers defensive coordinator, he had a great game plan against Aaron Rodgers. You know, and Stafford right now is 0-2 against the 49ers. In week 18, where the Rams lost 27-24, they also lost 31-10, where Stafford has thrown 4 picks. So Stafford has not played really good. Same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's been better. 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but it's not really that big of a difference. I think it's more Garoppolo had that chance at the end to come through. He made such a big comeback. He was really great. Stafford really threw some bad time interceptions. But this matchup, I think, is going to be really important. The matchup between Jalen Ramsey against Deebo Samuel. We're going to see if that's going to really happen. But that's going to be really the key receiving-wise matchups. I think Ramsey could also match up against Brandon Ayuk if he needs to, the other 49ers receiver. But I still think Deebo is going to have a really big impact running that football, like he always does, because the Rams are going to have to be physical. Yeah, Deebo had 10 carries for 39 yards, 10 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown against the Cowboys. And then I think 10 carries, Kyle Shanahan's really doing that. 10 carries is really the key for Deebo Samuel to be successful. We'll see what he can do if Ramsey's going to be on him one-on-one. And then this is so important right here, man. Aaron Donald and Von Miller, these two have to get after Jimmy G as fast as they can. Von Miller forced 1 sack, had a fumble recovery was huge against the Buccaneers. And Jimmy Garoppolo is not very mobile like Tom Brady. So, I mean, if they can have that kind of performance and force a fumble or two, it would go a long way to help them win that game. Same for Aaron Donald. He's going to have to do something like that. Block Jimmy G's, viewpoint, collapse the pocket like they did really well multiple times against the Buccaneers. Even a little pressure and Garoppolo kind of has an errant throw. So that's what you have to do. Look out for Leonard Floyd. He also had a sack. So you have those three guys coming in. So you gotta watch out if you're getting Jimmy Garoppolo in the 49ers. And then this really is really important. Can the Rams wide receivers get open before the 49ers pass rush starts to come in? And I believe Cooper Kupp, he has a real great advantage in that secondary. But to me, it's really all about Matt Stafford getting that time. If Matt Stafford has time, this 49ers secondary can't stand a chance because they can't guard him at all. He's literally the triple crown in receiving. Most receiving catches, most receiving yards, and most receiving touchdowns. So he's the best receiver in the game right now. So Andrew Whitworth is also back for the Rams, which is really important. He's going to play such a big part in guarding against Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead away from Matt Stafford. Give him a couple of seconds because that Rams offense will definitely explode. So, Van Jefferson, he's questionable. So if Jefferson's not going to play, Odell Beckham Jr., OBJ, and Cooper Kupp are going to have to step up even more. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how DeMeco Ryans really stops these two from making big plays. Because that pass rush, it really has to get home in time. Because if it doesn't, I think the 49ers might be in trouble. And so, that brings me to my prediction, where I have the Rams heading to the Super Bowl and getting it done. They get their home Super Bowl where the defense steps up big time. You can tune in on Sunday, 5:30 Central Time on Fox in Los Angeles. I would not be surprised if the 49ers do end up winning this game and making it to the Super Bowl, because after all, they have won 6 straight games against the Rams. They just really seem to have their number, but I think the Rams pull it out. I think they have that home Super Bowl. To me, they're really the more complete team. They'll get pressure on Jimmy G, with the 3 guys I mentioned here, Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd. They'll force a couple of turnovers, and it'll get in fast, just like against Brady. The Rams, they did a great job stopping Leonard Fournette last week for the majority of the game. I think they'll do that against Elijah Mitchell as well, because if they can do that's really the key to locking down the 49ers. And if the Rams can stop that Niners running game, they should win with their pass rush. Defensively, I think both defenses play really well in this game, but I think Sean McVay comes up with something. I trust him to do that in the biggest game against the 49ers. Quick passes to their playmakers, good time play action, maybe some extra protection for Stafford, and I think it's going to be a very close game, but I think it's going to be similar to the last meeting where the Rams defense was unable to get a stop. I think this time the Rams defense gets a stop. They get to the Super Bowl. I have Chiefs and I have Rams in the Super Bowl. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, enable notifications, comment in the comment section what your Super Bowl is, and I'll see you in the next one.